You know what, I'm going to say it. Flume is one of the absolute masters when it comes to sound design ear candies. You don't know what I'm talking about? It's like little flourishes of sound design goodness in a track that sounds like this. Just the little textured random sounds, the nuances here and there. And I'm going to walk you through an easy way how to make some similar ear candies inside of Ableton. First of all, you need a track that's mostly done, so then you can create the flourishes from the track. So we're going to be resampling with this one. Notice I've left a bunch of gaps in between the chords. This is where our ear candies are going to go. So first things first, you're going to take your main element or your chords or whatever's providing the harmonic content of your track, which in my case is these chords right here. I'm going to turn off the sidechain compression so it's a clean sound. I'm going to create a new audio track and turn the input recording. If you can't see this, turn on I/O here. Input from Resampling. Solo the chords, make sure record enable is enabled, and hit record. And if you notice, since we resampled this, our gaps in between our chords are going to line up perfectly, but we want some sound in between those chords. So we're going to click, hold, and drag our new audio recording and fill in the gaps there, and chop this just so it's in between the gaps. Like so. This still has some gaps overlay, so we're going to drag that out even more. Don't worry if it's not perfect. Command E or Control E is to create slices, by the way. That's my shortcut that I'm doing. Kind of like a call and response at the moment, but this is where the golden magic happens. I'm going to double click on our first chop here. I'm going to change the warp mode from beats to textures. Grain size is key with this, but of course, it's just playing normally. We need to create some new warp markers. Double click anywhere, kind of close together, and drag this out here. So you got to find the sweet spot, typically lower the better-ish, but you'll hear what works and what doesn't work. So that's the first chunk done. Second chunk, texture, drag this out. So now it's a little bit out of time and it's sounding a bit more flumey at this stage. We can create even more markers. Reversing samples also works wonders as well. R is the shortcut. But we can play around with that later once we've got all the effects dialed. Next up is grain delay. The key here is really grains. You've got grains in your texture, and when you've got grain delay, it's just all about that flume sound. I'm going to turn sync to time. Create the lowest value, which is 1 millisecond. Leave that at 100. Pitch, we want this 12, which is an octave up. It sounds so lovely. This frequency is where it comes into its own. Very flumey. And of course you can go even further with the frequency or the spray. Create some automation. I'm going to drag in an EQ, strip that bass end. We want this to sound completely different from the main chords, be its own separate thing. So we're going to actually create some notches here as well. Nice, it's definitely sounding flumey. I'm going to turn sidechain back on for these. I'm actually going to copy and paste the sidechain from the original chords onto this. And the last effect which we're going to add is the spectral resonator. I'm going to take the key of the song, which is, I forgot, D minor. We're going to turn this to note mode and change this down to D. Turn decay down. It's creating an even more metallic-y sound, and turn this dry wet down. If you notice, grain delay is making our sound super, super wide. If you want to make this more mono, utility, turn it onto the left or right. I know I said last audio effect, but I just had one more idea. Changing the pitch envelope, aka transposition modulation. If you go into a clip, envelope, clip, transposition. This might sound a bit funky. That sounds sick! Get creative with the dry, wet, frequency, and spray. If you automate those, you'll create some absolute madness, like I'm going to now, just to show you what it sounds like. But yeah, that is that Flume sound design ear candies inside of Ableton.